Welcome to the Journey to Wholeness, a podcast by I See My Baby Incorporated. Here, we dive deep into powerful stories of those who have overcome life's greatest challenges, stories of resilience, healing, and renewed faith. I'm Alicia Hurtt, your host, and each week we'll speak to individuals who have transformed struggles with infertility, battles with depression, and crisis of faith into profound growth and purpose. Hello, everyone. It's Alicia Hurtt here, your servant leader, with another episode of the Journey to Wholeness. Today, I have a great guest. She's so flexible, y'all. I've been all over the place. Oh, my goodness. But we need to hear her story. We need to get some nuggets, some wisdoms. Y'all, she write books, y'all. So I want to just turn it over to my special guest and give her an opportunity to tell us who she is, her background, and then what brought her to her particular journey.
Perfect. Hi, Alicia. Thank you so much for having me on. And I love your energy, by the way. This is wonderful. And my name is Ellie Laliberte, and I am a published author. And I have a very cool, unique book that the book can be seen as spiritual, it can be seen as more like philosophy. It really depends on the person, but it depends also where the person is at to receive the book. So I've written a book to help you reconnect with your higher self. So then again, you can call that higher self however you want to call it. Some people will call it God. Some people will call it, I actually say your inner being in the book as well. It is up to the person how they want to receive it, but it is a book that is, it's very unique in its style, and people do have to be very open-minded when they read it. The way that I've got there was, first of all, I've been writing for a very long time. So I've been writing since I was 21. And I went into the spiritual and again, philosophy, self-development world, I would say, in the beginning of my 20s. And that is kind of like what prompted me to start writing in this way. Everything that I was reading, everything that I was kind of like learning about that world, I was really just wanting to express myself through writing. So I would write it down my thoughts. I would see where I'm at, who am I, throughout all of that. And so writing was a very powerful tool. It is still a very, very powerful tool for me to heal some more and rediscover of who I am even more. And it led me to actually write two books. So the first book that I wrote was back when I was 27. It was in French because I'm French. If you do not hear the accent, there's the one for sure. The first was in French, and then that book, it went well, but it could have gone better. And unfortunately, I didn't have the best help with the marketing and everything back then. And also, back then I was kind of like, I just wanted to write a book more. It was kind of like a personal dream. It was not so much, I guess as well, I didn't have that spirit, that maturity developed enough to say like, I really want to make a big impact in the world with this. So it was mostly just a book to for me to say that I've written the book, and I was really happy to have to feel that dream. So I didn't really push it, and also like I said, I didn't really have a lot of help with the publishing house at that time that I was with, unfortunately. So it didn't really, people would ask me like, when are you going to write your second book? And I really didn't feel like I don't know. I didn't feel it like profoundly that I was going to write a second book. And then voila, at one point, about 2 years ago, back in 2023, December 23, I was in meditation and just at a place where I was in complete surrender and another level of surrender in my life where I really had to accept the unknown because I was in a big transition of like, just everything basically. I was alone, still single, and I just lost a business that I built for the last 7 years that I was really, really, it was a time of a very painful staying with that business because it was no longer reflecting who I was. So I had to let that go. So I was letting go of a lot of things that I was kind of like attached to, and I just didn't know where I was going. And so that book came to me in a meditation where it said, "You got another book to write, so a second book to write. This is the title, and this is the way that you're going to write it." And I was like, okay. So I sat down and I wrote the book within a month. It was completely just channeled, and I know that. And so, yeah, it was crazy experience. And I had no idea from there what the book was going to do. I didn't know if I was even going to publish it. Like, I had no idea. I wanted to let that book speak for itself and do what it needed to do, because I kind of knew that it wasn't about my small self. It was about like helping those who really need to reconnect with who they are and to get to know the truth of who they are. So yeah, so that's kind of like the journey of what brought me to that book. And you know, the book has been composed of, instead of being chapters, they are letters. So they're composed of 21 letters, all in the sense where you're reading the letters as if your higher self is speaking directly to you.
Mm.
So it's a really unique concept, and like I said, it's an unusual concept, so you have to be open. But it's been making some noise, and people are really enjoying it, and the comments have been great. So I'm excited for for what's to follow with everything, and I'm super excited to be on podcasts like this, speaking about it to you.
And
Yeah,
I'm
that's been
humbled to have you here. And you said yes. So what's the
yeah.
name of the book for those that are like, okay, book 1 and 2, what are the names of the books?
Well, the first one, if you're French, you can read it because I don't have a version in English, unfortunately. It says "Quand ta vraie nature te parle" in
Oh,
French.
so
In
good.
English, it means "when your true nature speaks to you." So it's a little similar to the second one, but the second one is very much deeper. It's very deep, and it's completely in the same style, which is the title is "Letters from You to You." And the
Mm,
subtitle is "Awaken Your Power Through Conversations with Your Higher Self."
amen.
Yeah,
Okay, so I have some questions for you.
cool.
So you said that the second book, it depends on where you are, the impact that
Yeah.
it'll make. Like you have to be open-minded. Speak a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So, when I wrote the book myself, I was at a level of understanding where I was extremely open to receive, insights and intuition, and to let myself get out of the way to really know what my life is trying to tell me.
Right.
So if you're someone who has, you know, not a lot of interest in the spiritual realm, or even in psychology or philosophies, if you just don't feel like you really want to learn more things about you, then that book may probably not be for you, and that's okay. When I say that, people have to be ready. If like I was ready even through my book. Like I was learning things about myself just writing that book, because I knew that it was not really me that was writing the book, but it was something that was much higher than me. So I needed to listen. And even through like when I was rereading my letters, I would get like, and I had experiences of like I was bawling and just crying. And at one point I was like reading it and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe what the hell I wrote this. Like I
Right.
didn't believe it. And so it made a really big impact on what I was ready to listen to. And so, a lot of people are telling me like the book is triggering for sure, because it is going to be talking to you about things that you have been so conditioned since you were a kid to kind of feel like that was your truth. But then, we that conditioning made it so that, we've kind of like stayed small all of our lives, unfortunately. And that's for everybody. Like no one is an exceptional. Everybody has been conditioned. And now we're in a time in the world where we're actually being awakened, and we have to make new decisions and really just like change our perspective about life, because the suffering is too intense. And so it is a time of great awakening, and it's not going to stop. It's going to get probably bigger, like the chaos is going to be bigger, so that more of us, more humans really realize like, oh my God, I need to stop relying on the outside world to define who I am.
Mm,
I need to start looking in. I need to be in peace with who I am and even like take that time to get to know who I am without any opinions outside of me, without, the systems, without what I was being told by my parents, by generations. I need to start healing that conditioning. Like I need to start healing. And so that book is actually really going to help people to start healing, to start on their healing process. And they can call it woo woo if they want to, but there's a lot of truth in there that, we've we've unfortunately been and it's not, it's not a blaming game. It's just the way that it was. And now we're evolving as human beings and we need to know how to kind of like live in a new energy. That's all. But a lot of people, that are very wounded, because let's face it, we're all wounded. They're going to stay into the victim consciousness. So the victim consciousness means that you're still stuck in like everybody is doing something to me, and so you're staying
mm,
stuck in like I'm taking everybody and everything so personal, and I'm suffering because of that. So now what we want to try to do, and that book is kind of helping people to do that, is getting into the attachment of that and getting out of the victim consciousness and going into the witness consciousness, which is the impersonal self.
right.
And it can be complicated to understand as I'm saying it now, but once you're in the book, you kind of see all of the titles. Like I have a title in one of the letters. It's about like emotional triggers. So it's to understand like, why am I always being triggered every time I speak to someone? That person talks
Mm,
to me and they say something, I get triggered, and I don't know where that comes from. Is to get that awareness going on, like to get to know who you are, because it's not true that it's everybody's fault. It's because you're not healing something inside of you, and because of that, you're always suffering because you're taking everything so personally. And so there are different topics in the book. So there's like I said, there's learning how to recognize your patterns, recognize your emotional triggers, where they come from. You're going to be learning how to have a relationship with the unknown. So how to be well with the unknown, because we're always trying to, manipulate and control and make sure that our lives are going in the way that we want it to go. But we don't know how to just surrender to the unknown and
right.
let life take care of us. And then you're going to be even like learning about like grief. What is grief? What is real grief? you know um Other things, love. You're going to start, knowing about what is true love for you, and discovering that inside of you to understand the love for other people. Anyways, there's 21 letters, like I say, of like a lot of different topics that are all general for everybody. Goes through that, so it's very relatable. And people, if they're open, that's how they can receive this book, because they're going to see like, oh my God, this, I'm relating to so much of this, because really I've gone through the same thing, and I know that you've gone through really a lot of similar things, and someone else is going to have gone through similar things too. So we're all kind of like relating so much with that. So it's kind of like universal truth, if you want.
Yeah. I love what you said. It reminds me of an older person. You always get the wisdom from the elders that the Bible, you'll never read it enough, and that you always find something new or have
Yeah.
another type of understanding. And it sounds like your
Mhm.
book is similar, where when you say where you are, the 21-year-old where you are will not be the 42-year-old where you are. And so this is a book that you'll read it, and then you'll put it on the shelf, and then you'll pull it
Yeah.
back out and you'll reread it and say, no, I'm getting something different. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had people telling me as well, something that I didn't know that people are doing with the book. When I write, like I write and it goes out, and I put it in a way that I feel that it's the most organized and beautiful. But like, I am not really making this book what it is. It's the people that are reading it that are actually transforming this book as a tool, and how it's going to be used as a tool. And what I've been told by people is that because it's 21 letters, Some people, they just go through the book where they kind of like they decide, okay, let's choose a number, and they're going to go, let's say, with number 4. And the number 4 is all about the art of detachment, let's say. So on that day, they're going to be reading that letter about the art of detachment. So learning about detachment and also about attachment. And they're going to go through their day with that letter. So they're going to be self-reflecting the entire day about like that one subject. They don't need to go through the entire book in like a couple of days. They can really take their time with one letter at a time if they want to. So you can read that book whenever, however you want. Some people read it completely, like from the first letter to the 21st letter, and other people actually just take it and they're like inspired that day to be like, okay, today I want to read number 20, and so they pick it up that way. And yes, absolutely, I do feel like, because again, like I've done that in my life where there's like, I have a lot of books behind me, if you can see. And
Yes.
so sometimes these books, a lot of them I read when I was 20-ish. I did have a great understanding of what they meant and what they are, but the level of readiness that I had back then is not the same level of readiness that I have today. Absolutely not, as kind of like my spiritual maturity now. And yes, if I pick up some of these books that back then I might have thought like, oh my God, this is so beautiful, I might have not, captured what I kind of need to capture now from it today. And so it's exactly the same thing. People will have to go through it. Well, I'm not saying they have to, but if they are very curious about their own spiritual evolution, they will want to revisit and see how they're seeing it now. Because sometimes what happens is, let's say I'm reading something, and like I told you, it might be triggering. So if I'm reading something that triggers me, kind of like at one point in my book, I talk about how, the relationship that you have with your kids. And I don't have kids, but I feel that very strongly that at one point in my life, if I do have a child, I'd like to have that mindset that your kids don't belong to you. Your kids came through you, but they do not belong to you. So the attachment that you put on your kids is actually hurting you. Well, some people might be very, very, very triggered with that and might believe that that means that they don't, that it's kind of like someone would say, oh, well, if you're not attached to your child, it's because you don't love them, which is not true. And so if they are not able to receive that at that moment, they're going to be triggered in that moment. They're not going to receive that at all. Maybe when they close the book because they've been maybe too triggered, a couple of days later, they might be like, huh, yeah, okay, I guess now it makes sense, because they're kind of like, their ego unfortunately calmed down, and now they can start seeing it through their heart and see it in another way where it feels better. So they can revisit it. So that's what I'm kind of trying to say when, our a lot of the times the reason why we can't receive something is because there's something in us, and that's with everything and everyone. There's something in us that is that's very loud, that needs to be seen by us. And so we're kind of wanted to protect that. But that thing wants to come out and be seen. So it's good to be triggered.
Yeah,
It's a
I
good
hear you.
thing. Mhm.
It helps you deal with your stuff.
Yes. Yes, it does.
So you talked about grief, where you lost a business that you had and you worked diligently on for 7 years, and how you had to release and let go, and then also accept the unknown. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur since the age of 21 again. So it's so funny because everything kind of like started at 21, I feel. And I've had a couple of business, and within those businesses, I also had a business with my ex-husband. And that business that I had with my ex-husband, it kind of like brought us to have a separation. And the business was really failing, like it was falling apart really badly. And unfortunately, yeah, it created this big mess between my ex-husband and I. And, it just ended up like, it's not the only reason why the relationship wasn't working anymore, but it was a big factor as well. And so created a separation. And I was with that partner for like 12 years. So for me, it was a big loss in my life to lose that business, to lose my relationship. I lost my 2 dogs in that as well because I needed to give them away, um, for the purpose of, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life now because I was alone for the first time. And I needed to act very quickly financially. And my dogs, unfortunately, they were not that I didn't love them. I loved them very much, and I had them for 11 years, and they were kind of like my child. But my survival mode, I was on survival mode, and I needed to make decisions. And unfortunately, my dogs could not follow my decisions. And so I had to give them away. I was grateful that my parents-in-law took them at least, but it meant that I had to cut them out of my life because I couldn't go and visit them anymore. So that led to, yeah, that was kind of like one of the first things that I had to grieve big time. And then it didn't stop there because like kind of like life said, like, okay, now that you have lost everything, I will show you who you are. And so I needed to learn to get to know who I was without anything or anyone in my life, which was very painful. It's always very painful, but it was a gift in disguise. At the moment, it wasn't. Today, I know that it was a gift. And throughout that pain, well, I went back into patterns, and those patterns led me to go into another relationship way too fast. And because I felt like I needed to have someone because I didn't know how to be alone myself, right? And that relationship ended really badly as well, and it was worse than how it ended with my ex-husband. So that really brought me on my knees a second time. And so I had to lose something else again in that sense. But I had to lose something else again to rediscover who I was at a deeper level, right? And so it was kind of like series of like loss like that. I had started my another business when I got separated because it was a business that actually I was very grateful that it went well really quickly because that's what gave me a financial security. But that business was actually, created from a survival mode energy. So it couldn't last in that sense. It was not going to be sustainable because I didn't create it from a place of like uh, desire all that much. I created it from a place of like, I don't have a choice right now. I need to do something to have money come in because I'm alone and I need to survive. That was really why I did it. It was good for a couple of years, and after a while, because of unfortunately the economy that we're in right now, it just started to downgrade. And so I needed to again face another reality where I needed to lose something else. I needed to let go. I actually needed to let go of that business because it was just not working, and I was putting myself into more trouble than anything else by trying to keep it alive. And so what happened in there, and when I speak about grief, is you're grieving something not because something is going away, but because you identify yourself so much with the things and the people in your life. So you're not actually grieving these things, you're grieving a part of yourself. So you're actually dying from an old version of you. And these things, when they're leaving like that, and especially like I'm not speaking about people that are dying, but it's the things that are leaving your life. Usually they are doing that so that you know that you have to kind of like transform into something new, and it's just natural for your life that they're leaving, but you don't see that as being natural. You see it as very painful because you identified who you are with these things and these people. And so that grief is really like, that's what I was feeling. I had to surrender to the unknown because I was literally feeling like I was dying, and not dying physically, but I felt like I needed to die from that self that wanted to keep that thing alive, that business alive, and whatever people that were surrounding me, maybe that were not healthy for me at that time, alive as well, right? And so that's what I kind of mean by the chapter is called not the chapter, sorry, the letter is called Grieving You, because it's really you that you're grieving all the time. Yeah.
So, starting writing at 21 and then looking back at it now, how has your writing evolved as far as your healing and your rediscovery?
My writing now is not so much about my personal life, I would say. It is more about receiving what I'm supposed to understand, what I'm supposed to listen to. And so it's very intuitive. It's intuitive writing. That's how I call it. So every time that I start writing something, I'm wanting to let that energy come through me, because that's the most powerful way that I heal, because now I'm ready. I'm always kind of like wanting to get out of the way again and just be like, I'm going to write and I'm going to let the answers come to me. And sometimes it does happen still where I'm going to be, just expressing myself, because it is important when you're writing. It's a really great modality to just let the, I would say, let the shit out.
That's right. Let it
Yeah.
out.
So it's good to do it. But after that, you can also just go into a writing session where you're kind of like feeling like, okay, now I want to be intentional with my writing, because I want to be intentional with my energy through the writing. And so what can I receive right now that is going to flow on paper, and I'm going to be making sense of like my some aspects of my life with my writing now. So that's really how my writing has evolved, as less personal and more intuitive. And it's beautiful, and I love writing in that way. I feel like it's me. And so yeah.
So, how do you maintain your resilience when you face ongoing challenges?
Oh boy. I don't really decide how I maintain my resilience in that sense. I've started to really just go with the flow of my life, and I know that I have resilience, right? And I know that it's never going to go away in a sense. But I also know that I'm good at listening when it's time to listen, to let things just fall into place, be where they are, and not make them define who I am, And at that point, my resilience is not really needed that much. Now it's more of an allowing. I'm allowing just life, my what's unfolding in my reality, to just be what it is, and to be okay with that, because resilience is beautiful and it's great to have a lot of it. But sometimes it's kind of like we almost get addicted to the resilience, in the sense where it's kind of like we want more resilience, and we want to continue to be the fighter and the striver. And so at one point, we need to understand that if we want to get out of like that energy of always fighting and striving and having life being difficult, we have to step back and again detach and see our lives as just like, this is not personal. And I really need to see the grace. I need to see the grace in my life,
Yeah.
and be comfortable in the unknown, be comfortable in the uncomfortable. I have a hard time saying that. But yeah.
I agree with you, because that's where God can deal with you. Earlier on, you said something very profound. I may not say it exactly how you said it, I'll paraphrase it. But basically, when you're at the bottom, like when you're going through your Job moment, that is when God can deal with you. He can work through you, because
Yes.
that is complete surrender.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. There's so much beauty in that. And that's what's sad sometimes, is like people continue to see it as like too painful, and they're afraid of getting to that point. But that point is what brings you the most humility and the most love for yourself in that moment, because you get to the point where, kind of like me, I knew at one point, I was like, oh my God, like I literally cannot lose anything more. Like there's just nothing left to lose. And so what happens now? What happens when there's just nothing left to lose? Well, it means that I am still here, and I'm still me, and I'm at my purest form of who I am, because nothing is defining me right now, you know? So yeah, it's quite a journey, but it's very humbling. And then if you can just sit with that the most that you can, where you're in stillness with it, you don't have to think about it so much. You're just letting it be what it is. There is peace in that. and you realize in your life, and that's what I've been realizing in my own life, I will never make anything more important than peace. Nothing ever will be more important than peace. Whether it's
Amen.
beautiful or whether it's painful, it will never go and disrupt my peace. I don't want that. It could in a moment, but I always want to, fine tune and course correct to get back into my alignment so that that peace doesn't, that has to be strong in me now.
Right. I completely agree with you. I can just remember so many times in my career, younger years, even lateral years in real estate, where I chose someone else's peace over mine and then regretted every moment of it because it still didn't bring them peace. It still
Yeah.
didn't bring me peace, trying to give them peace because it just wasn't in them. And it was for me to really understand that all money ain't good money. All clients ain't for you, and be
Mm.
okay with firing them or saying, no, we're not a good fit, we're not a good match. And you have to
True.
be in that mindset and not in that scarcity mindset, because it's like, you know what? God will never leave or forsake me. Like really reinforcing that positiveness, that grace that God gives you, knowing who you are, resting in
Mm.
that when you don't even
Mm.
see it. But you're like,
Yeah,
God's not going to leave me. I'm going to be fine, like in
exactly.
Jesus' name. So what's
Yeah.
one message you hope listeners take away from your story?
Mm. Well, my message right now, and especially with what's going on in the world, unfortunately, is that people have to get back to their inner world and stop relying so much on what is going outside of them. They have to have that discipline. They have to make that like priority and that practice. Um, we don't have a choice now, really, for humanity. And if everybody can take that time to focus on their inner world and find out what they who they are, they will be reflecting that into the world. And can you imagine if every single human being would start to do that?
Right,
We wouldn't have what's going on in the world right now, the division and the wars and everything, because people would know what is the truth.
right.
They would find out the truth of the reality of who they are, of their essence. And so yeah, I feel that it's an urgency for humanity to start doing that right now.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So for those that are just smitten with you and they're like, I need more, Ellie, I need more. How can they get in contact with you? And then if you have any things coming down the pike you want to offer them, like this is your time. Go on, take over.
Thanks. They can go on my website if they want, lettersbyellie.com. They will find a lot of things about me on there for sure. The book is on there as well. If they don't want to go through the website, they can just go on Amazon to get the book. I do have an audio version as well of the book that they can find on Audible. And if they really want to have a kind of like cheaper version in a sense, just to hear it a little bit, they can go on my website. I'm offering it for free right now through a YouTube link. So yeah, so they can find me there. What else? Yeah, if they want to go on my socials, I mean, I do put a lot of things on my socials too, that they can find out more about me there. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm even on YouTube. I've done a couple of episodes with some people there that there's a lot of information and wisdom there too. So a couple of places where they can find me as well. There's another thing that I feel is important for people to know that I'm very happy to be part of. I've been in a very beautiful project with someone who is an excellent coach, spiritual coach, and very deep into his philosophies. That we've created a platform for a community, and that community is outside of social media, which means that it's not, sometimes when you have Facebook groups or whatever for spiritual entrepreneurs or just people that want to be in spirituality, it can be very overwhelming because there's so distractions, and it's okay. But the thing is like there's a lack of connection and intimacy in these groups because of the we're kind of like bombarded with all of the promotions and all that. So what that platform is, first of all, it's called the Sacred Space. you can check it out on my, if you go on my website, I do have that on the first page. I do have a link for you to check it out. It's free to join. And what it is basically a beautiful community of like-minded people, just like me, who are wanting to just be together and learn more about this world and about the inner world and about the essence of who we are and everything, and heal, really heal. And there's nothing more important than to have community when you are going through a healing process, because you need to relate with other human beings. The other human beings are your teachers. They are the ones that it's not for nothing that we're supposed to be in a relationship with many people in our lives, in the sense where relationships are actually just a form of connecting to ourselves through other people. And so you learn a lot about who you are by connecting with other human beings that are absolutely like-minded. And so that platform, yeah, is really meant for that. We have also, like we have like 28 calls a month on one of the memberships, that we're bringing practices to you. We're going to be doing, calls, like I'm doing an intuitive writing session every Wednesday. There is a ancient chanting as well. So there's breath work. There is, well, yoga that you can do as well. There's just a whole bunch of like practices, so that people stay into their practices, that they continue to practice, and practice with other people too is really fun. So we're offering a lot of value in there. We've got experts on plant medicine that come in too, so for people that are interested in learning about plant medicine and the effects and everything like that that can help people with trauma. There is absolutely, I cannot say more enough of that there's a lot of value with that platform. And so people, if you're curious, like I said, it doesn't cost anything to go and check it out. You can actually just be a free member and check out the platform and see how we're all vibing in there. And we're more than 120 members now. So it's super fresh too. It's only been like a month and a half now. And we're trying to just create this movement of bringing people together, whether you're a coach, whether you're just very interested in going deep into your spirituality, or even if you're not wanting to go deep in spirituality, you're just wanting to have a vibe of people that are inspiring you every day and leaving you with wisdom, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it. If people want to check all of that out, that's how they can find me.
Awesome. Especially the grief part. I was like, this is interesting. I didn't think about it that way. But I definitely thank you again. I will put all of your links below this video. Thank you to our listeners. And please reach out to Ellie. She has so much more wisdom that she can share with you, a whole community that you can get involved with to really expand your knowledge, to heal, to listen to that inner voice, that higher power, to help you on your journey to wholeness. You guys take care. I love you guys. I'll see you later, Ellie.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you for joining us today on the journey to wholeness. We hope this episode has offered you a sense of hope, comfort, and perhaps even a new perspective on your own journey. If today's story resonated with you, remember that you're not alone. Healing is a process, and each step you take brings you closer to wholeness. Here, we believe in the power of community, and we're so grateful to have you as a part of us. To stay connected with us, follow I See My Baby Incorporated on social media and visit our website at www.iseemybaby.org. If you or someone you know has a story to share, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep walking, keep healing, and remember, your journey to wholeness is worth every step. Take care, and thank you for listening.